This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
Just respond to my text. Just respond to my text. I'm going to text you from a 586 number. And we'll get you all set up. Okay, Shelly Patty, appreciate the support. Yeah. So, my life is so crazy. So we got some new books out. All right, we got some new books out. We got some new books coming out. Yeah, we got some new books out. We got some new books coming out. I know that almost don't even mean anything. I know those words don't even mean anything anymore, right? Like, okay, Doc, we know it, right? If there's one thing we can bet on, is that there are new books that have just been released, and there are more new books that will shortly be released. Oh my God, thank you so much. Shout out to the legend. Shout out to the legend. Come on, talk that talk. EnQi is in the building. Come on and talk that talk. Yeah, yeah. Ooh! Now, Kyle, first of all, you know that the actual count is somewhere around 200. And second of all, sir, you know, we got well over 100 on Amazon, sir. And, you know, I take it as a personal offense when anybody think they done caught up. Like, uh-oh, I got to release. I got to release some more. You know what I'm saying? But no, I definitely appreciate the support. And even more than the support, I appreciate the avid learners. I appreciate the avid learners. You know, like it's not just like, you know, Bayot helping to make sure we got, you know, some sandwiches, some salad, or keep the lights on. You know, it's the fact that he's an avid learner. You know, so I really appreciate, you know, I'm trying to make sure. Listen, I live in fear. I'm in slavery. Period. I don't want anybody to ever catch up. Osborne keeps the whip on my back. I promise you. Osborne is relentless. I feel like Kunta Kinte after he texts me. He don't give me a break. As soon as I drop it, he got it. I'm like, oh, that's how you want to... I'll be like, oh, that's how you want to play? Children be like, Dad, when you going to go to sleep? You know, I wish I could, you know, be here after I'm gone just so I could hear the stories that they tell. Oh, I'm trying to live, you know, as long as possible, though. I'm trying to get to 100 and whatever. I don't know how far I'll make it, but I'm trying to get to 100 and change, maybe hit that 120 mark at least. You know what I'm saying? But I know they got some wild stories to tell. I know they got some wild stories to tell because they are long stretches. And when I say long stretches, there's long stretches of their lives that they've never seen me sleep. Like they're really long stretches, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially if we take out like daytime naps. If we take out daytime naps, there are years where they haven't seen me sleep. Yeah, there are years where, because I having to, they're bigger now. You know what I'm saying? They're bigger now. So it's not so much anxiety and fear. But yeah, when they were all little, because there's a time where, you know, I have them all and they're all little. So I have to be the last one to go to sleep, and I have to be the first one to get up to wake everybody up. So there are, you know, times where they wait. I remember one time they was discussing it amongst themselves, and Aubrey looked so confused. She was like, "Wait a minute, Dad needs to sleep." Now this is why she's little, but she's like, "Dads need to sleep too." I don't think our dad needs to sleep. Oh my God. Yeah, they gonna tell some wild stories. But I got wild stories about my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got superhero level stories. Now there's the new one that dropped today. Now guess what? There's not a new one that dropped today. That is incorrect, sir. There is a new 3 that dropped today. There are 3 new ones. Yeah, there's actually a whole new category. Yeah, so there's the rich abs category, and I think one book came out in the rich abs, poor abs universe. But there's a spin-off universe, right? Which is the seminary, which is basically the study guides. So there's a whole new section of study guides that's coming out. Yeah, there's a whole new section of study guides that's coming out. To help people learn faster, but then also for the people that are interested in the degree work, right? But even if you're not interested in the degree work, like getting a certification, the books are really good to help you learn the information. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff that yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that we got going on, but primarily surrounding you know, bringing people into this culture of ours. That is the focus for 2025, right? Bringing people into our culture, our way of seeing the world, our, you know, religion, if you will, right? Over the years, and when I say over the years, I mean over the years, like it's one of the things that caused like the early rift between me and Crystal, or me and my, you know, my children's mom. Like the early rift between us was consciousness. Like that was the early rift, you know. She wasn't with it. She wasn't with it. Every aspect was like pulling teeth. Every aspect was like pulling teeth. And if I can look, you know, over the years, past 2 decades, I have 2 decades worth of experience and information. I would say this is probably the most the single most important question that I don't think anybody has been able to address adequately. And that's me including myself. And when I say anybody, and when I say the past 20 years, just to be specific and transparent, I'm talking about Jewel Pookrum. I'm talking about Dr. Sabi. I'm talking about Dr. Africa. I'm talking about, you know, I mean, just all of the different plant-based, exercise-based movements, like all of the different health movements, right? Because I don't want to, like, you know, I'm highlighting, you know, Sabi, Africa, Jewel Pookrum, you know, because of the space, you know, but outside of that, you know, like all of the different, you know, even, I'm gonna just leave it like that, but all of the different health groups, you know, white, black, gay, straight, right? All of the different health groups. There has never really been a adequate address to that question. And the question specifically is, how do I discuss this with my mom? How do I discuss this with my dad? How do I discuss this with my wife? How do I discuss this with my children? How do I discuss this with this guy I know from my job who's on 5 different medications? How do I discuss this with, you know, my son's daycare teacher because I seen, you know, she need, you know, like there's never really been a blueprint, like a blueprint to systematically, right, teach people this information. Right? There's never really been a blueprint to how to approach the conversation. Right? What's the conversation? What's the conversation that I can have with a vegan, right? Like say I may know somebody that's been vegan for 30 years. What's the conversation I can have with them that I can also have, per se, maybe with somebody who, I don't know, they're not vegan, they're not interested in being vegan, versus a conversation that I can have with a bodybuilder who looks 10 times better than I do myself, right? And still grab his interest, you know, like.
Osborne, bro, listen. The single most important thing about diabetes you got to remember is, listen, as a matter of fact, when we get in the Bentley, I'll explain it. Thank God Jimmy sent us this Bentley. Listen, wait. Who? Get us to the mansion. Get us to the mansion. My wife. From the crown of thorns to facial chains and diet.
Okay. So that's been something that's been needed. Like needed in a very like serious. That is the one thing that nobody has been able to nail. And I think primarily, you know, and I don't want to insult anybody, right? But I think primarily the reason nobody has been able to necessarily nail that down is because for the most part, not everybody, and definitely not everybody all the time, right? But for the most part, health, whether it is talking about plant-based, paleo, keto, working out, you name it, it is primarily financially driven, right? It's primarily financially driven. And so because it's primarily financially driven, people tend, and I'm trying to be as careful as possible. So if you have to watch this video, HJ, I know I said I got to get my speaking together, right? And so I speak slow. So, you know, I might put a sign up in the beginning of the video, like, please go ahead and watch this video on 1.5, maybe 2.0. Maybe watch this video at double speed, right? I'm just trying to carefully pick my words, though. Because the business has been primarily driven by finance, people tend to want to stick to warm markets, right? People tend to want to stick to warm markets. So the energy that it takes to combat folks' ignorance, and, you know, like, people have spent more time telling people to, you know, not waste their time than engaging everybody else, right? So I think the primary reason, I'm not saying the only reason, I'm not saying everybody, I'm not, you know, but from everything I know, and when I say everything, I mean even outside of the health space, like from everything I know, because there are a lot of sales practices that are employed, right, inside the health space. And so I think that a lot of like people prefer warm markets, right? Warm markets and edification. Warm markets, edification, higher sales rate, much more efficient with your time. Much more efficient with your time, right? So, you know, especially you start talking to people that, you know, they're detractors, or they're very skeptical, or, you know, they don't know anything. So now you have to educate them and bring them up to a certain level before you can really, people just aren't willing to invest that time. And so because people aren't willing to invest that time, nobody has really invested the time to kind of create a dialogue, right? A dialogue on how to, like a systematic dialogue on how to convert people, right? How to convert people, right? How to convert people, how to bring people over, how to win people over, how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie, right? Yeah, nah, it's not this. It's not the, that always been happening. Like, let me because I've been on the front line of that battle for a long time and left that alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, even crackheads, even alcoholics, even heroin addicts, like, they defend their culture, right? They'll debate their culture. They'll argue you down about what they're doing and whatever the case may be. So, defending your culture and debating and things like that, like the meat eaters versus the vegans, and that's just a lot of posturing. And even that, a lot of that is financially driven, depending on who's having the discussions. People at home are kind of, like, defending what they know to be right. The people who've invested the time, right? But most of those conversations are fruitless because people don't really understand time management, right? So, for instance, I'll give you an example. A person will watch me on these videos, right, to make it personal, right? And some of you know that I'm probably talking about you right now, right? But a person will watch me every day, every other day. They might donate, they might support, join Patreon, every so often grab some products. They might buy books that they not even reading, just to support, you know what I'm saying? And we need the support. We appreciate that, right? But they are accumulating information. They're accumulating information by constantly watching and learning, even if they're not really acting on what it is that they're learning yet. They're constantly absorbing. And they might go through a period of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years before they act on the information they absorbed, right? Now, that same person will try to explain something to somebody that doesn't know any of this stuff. They don't know who EnQi is. They never heard of Sabi. Like, they don't know nothing about nothing. They don't know nothing about Robert Becker. They don't know nothing about no electric body, pharmaceutical, nothing. They got 10 shots from the pandemic, like, they don't know anything. They'll talk to a person like that maybe for a day, maybe not even for a whole day. A day is 24 hours. But they'll put, like a heavy, like heavy 30 minutes, heavy 60 minutes in with the person, get frustrated and be like, these people ain't trying to change their life. These people ain't trying to change their life. And the frustration is coming from the fact that for you, it seems like the things you're saying to this person are so logical and so easy to understand. You can't understand how they're not getting it. You can't understand how they're not getting it. You're like, yo, but I'm showing you this and I'm showing you that. Like, read this right here and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. They have to have the same, well, not the same amount of time, but they have to have time to sit with the information. They have to have time to metabolize the information. And if they're not studying or willing to listen to the information, they're not, it's going to take time. Like, it just takes time. You know what I'm saying? And so you can't get frustrated, right? You can't get frustrated. Now, John Q. Public, who's relatively healthy, right? Relatively healthy, right? That is an entirely different conversation than somebody who has cancer, has kidney disease, has diabetes, has autoimmune disease, right? So A person in a dire situation is looking for health information. They need health information. Well, we all need health information. But this person is in a time sensitive, like I got a problem. I need somebody that can help me with this now. They living with that. The fear of death is on their shoulder. Every time they wake up and go to sleep, while they brushing their teeth, they thinking about where they make it through the day or the week, right? So talking to that person is way easier than like maybe you 35, 45 years old, you might have a little belly, right? You ain't super big, you ain't obese, but you might have a little belly, you out of shape a little, you ain't how you looked at 20, maybe 25, whatever the case may be, but you're trying to talk to somebody who looks better than you. You're trying to talk to somebody that looks better than you. It's you don't even have a way into the conversation because there's no dynamic. It's nothing that you have to say that they're going to be interested in. You talking to a champion, you might be talking to a champion bodybuilder or a champion baseball or basketball or football player. How do you approach that person and have the conversation with that person in order to improve their health? they looking at you like, wait, what? What are you talking? You smoke blunts? Like, how you smoke weed? What? How you gonna tell me how to improve my health? Didn't I just see you drinking? Didn't I just see you with some drinks last? Like, how you gonna tell me how to improve? You can't offer me any. Like, you come on, like it's like so. Nobody has really put in the time to have a conversation where it's peace to the gods, peace to the gods. Right? But yeah, so nobody has really done that. Nobody has really done that. And so because of the nature of how we do things quite differently, and sometimes to my detriment, as I could be doing a lot better, right? If I focused on, putting sales and money before people, right? Yeah, I probably wouldn't have some of the stuff I'm dealing with. I wouldn't be dealing with right now. But because of the nature of how we do things, right? Because of the nature of how we do things, where we're at has evolved on its own, right? And I probably know better than to say things like that, but it's easier to put them that way, less confrontational. But God moves you, you're a piece on the chessboard, right? You just get put somewhere, like, okay, boop. You don't even know what the next move is. You're getting ready to get put over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you get moved around the chessboard, right? And so this is where we are as a result of, resurrecting and digging up so much Kmetic science, right? There's a cost, quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is a very, very real thing. And this is why our ancestors put so much emphasis on names, right? A name is a very powerful thing. A name is a very powerful thing because you attach yourself to a frequency, and that frequency is already attached to other things. So names are very, very powerful. And, when you start using particular names and you start saying certain things and you start making certain declarations, right? You attach yourself to things, and then those things are going to influence, they're going to inspire, right? Those things are going to inspire you in ways that you can't imagine. So uh-oh. Tika's on the board. Let's go to the family. Tika, we appreciate you so much, right? Adding us to your lifestyle journey and all that, right? Adding us to your lifestyle journey and all that, right? But so we're here, right? We're here. And you know, we found this very powerful term, right? This very powerful term, this very powerful set of sounds. And this term, this set of sounds has been with us for the last 6,000 years. It's been with us for the last 6,000 years, and it's very remarkable in and of itself, right? It's very remarkable that if we go back, first of all, the oldest codified and solidified religious ritual is the weighing of the heart ceremony, right? That is the oldest codified religious ritual, scientifically sound, grounded, like a, you know, because this, you know, people can point to like weird, loose, you know, bones in a cave or some old crazy, you know, foolishness. But
go clean up, bro.
Sir.
My bad. Kylie, go somewhere.
Sir.
Yeah.
You cannot do any of that right there. You are right onto my live stream. Man, I got my office window open. My man sitting right outside the window, like, yeah, go clean up. Woo, woo, woo. Anyway, right? So the weighing of the heart ceremony is the oldest, right? And the craziest part about this thing is that we have this term, right? This set of sounds that gives us the QRST, right? We had a little back and forth in Hotepistan last week, right? With HJ. Gives us QRST, but it also gives us Christ, right? QRST, Christ, right? It gives us these sounds. And so you go from the Kmetic science, which is inextricable, or you can't separate Kmetic science from Kmetic religion. And at the center of that is the QRST or the QRST or the Christ, and the heart, right? That's literally what the whole idea is, right? And you move from there, right? That is the greatest civilization on earth, right? Kemet, right? And Kemet has their time, right? And you go from there, and then the Greeks take over, right? And for a small window, the Greeks become the greatest civilization on earth, right? And then we moved to the Romans, and I guess we're still at the Roman chapter, right? So the Romans have been holding it down for a good minute. The Romans have been running the world for about 2,000 years now, right? Because the Romans, in case you don't know, the Romans are the Germans, right? So the world right now is run by Germans, right? The world is run by Germans. That is the very, very confusing thing that happened at the end of the whole, Nazi, Hitler, that's the confusion thing, where people are confused, like, is America Nazi? Is what, what is that? What is that? You know what I'm saying? And I wrestled with that for a while myself, but I kind of get it now, right? There's some of that. There's racism is a thing, but I'm outside of that. This is more about German and Roman, and this is it's a lot deeper than the Nazi Hitler thing, right? So all of the science, right, has a German founder that runs the world. So you go from the time of Kemet to the next culture that replaces Kemet, right? And the next culture that replaces Kmetic science isn't necessarily German or Roman. Greek or Roman, but it's, well, first things first, let me say this. The people that run the world, they understand spirituality runs the world. One of the greatest tricks ever played in the world is to make people believe that spirituality is not a real thing. Right? I don't even know what. Chloe came in here and cleaned up my office, and so I don't even know where my markers are. I don't know what she's doing. Let's see if this marker works. No, this does not work. Wow, this is a brick. This is a brick. So she done mixed up the trash markers. I had a bunch of trash markers. That was no good. So I need to actually find my brand new marker and just open up a new marker. I had some new markers. Okay. Can y'all even see it? Let me see if y'all can see this. Because I don't use this green for a reason. Green don't really pop off well. And then if I decide to do like a green screen, then you really won't see. You know what I'm saying? It'll disappear. Can y'all see that? See, that don't even show up well. Let me see something. It looks like you can see it a little bit better. There you go. There you go. Okay, so we're going to work with this for a hot second. Okay, this is the secret of spirituality right here. That is the secret of spirituality, that number. Man, think when you spray this stuff, it helps you clean one time, but then after that, you gotta spray this stuff like every time. Yeah, you gotta spray this stuff like every time. I didn't have to spray this on a whiteboard already before, but now. Okay, all right. So yeah, we got a little action. I'll figure out with my markers. But this number right here, 99%, right? That is the secret number of spirituality, right? Because spirituality is just the stuff that we really can't see and touch, particularly energy that controls matter and the 1% of things that we can understand, that we can interpret, right? So 99% of all the light in our world, we're incapable of sensing. 99% of all sound in our world, we are incapable of feeling. Remember, sound is pressure waves. That is feeling, right? That is very close to your sense of touch, right? So 99% of the things in our world we cannot see. 99% of the world things in our world, not like on Pluto or Mars or somewhere else, here, right? So the people that run the world, the wealthiest people, the most powerful people have always been the people who were tapped into some form of spirituality, right? So you go from Kemet, right? And then the Greco-Romans kind of remix Kmetic science, right? The Kmetic religion. And they give the world Christianity, right? They give the world Christ, Christianity from the Bible. Now, we know the Bible was conceived by a group from Kemet, right? At kind of like at knife point, right? And a part of that process was decoding the Bible was a part of that process was to create a Rosetta Stone of the science and the religion, right? Of the science and the religion, and give them a window in, right? But also so that they could understand and they could have a blueprint to dominate the globe, because they understood that's what Kemet did, right? And they understood that even though, you know, Alexander kind of had walked in there and just, you know, got the keys handed to him, they knew that without the science, they couldn't, you know, they needed driver's ed, right? They got the keys to the car, right? But they didn't know how to drive the car. They needed driver's ed. Or they got the keys to the plane, but they didn't know how to make it take off, right? So learning the language is a lot different than learning the science, right? Think about it. There's a lot of people that know English, but they don't know science. They don't know the periodic table. They don't know biochemistry. They know English, but they don't know biochemistry, right? They don't know chemistry. They don't know physics. They know English, but they don't know science, right? So a lot of times we look back at Kemet or ancient Egypt, you know, however, you know, we still, you know, and we think that learning the metal nature, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, they learned the metal nature. And this guy, you know, he decoded the metal nature. That, okay. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, that didn't teach them Kmetic science. They still didn't understand the relationship of a Sunu to a priest. You know, they didn't understand any of that, right? They didn't understand the natures, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just understood the letters. They didn't understand, right? So Christianity becomes the next global superpower, right? You have three. You have three from the time of Kemet to today. This is indisputable. This is stuff that's not debatable, right? This is not debatable. But you need this conversation. I promise you, we're still on track with the title of the video, right? This is a very specific conversation we're having right now, right? This is a very specific conversation we're having right now. Very important to our movement, right? This is not necessarily one of the dopamine mind explosion videos. Like, we got people that watch the channel, they're just information junkies, and they know we always got new research, and so they just want to hear some crazy stuff. So they, that was great. Like, this isn't that. This is for the movement. This is for the growing of the platform. This is for the, this is the selfless. This is philanthropy. This is philanthropic, right? This is where you give back, you pay it forward, right? You pay it forward. You help somebody else learn the things that you've learned to get you to a better place, right? You pay it forward. So all of this conversation is important, right? See, I ain't even looking over here, and high frequency just jumped off the top rope. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Did I get those packages? No, I ain't getting no packages. I did not get no. Oh, I missed this. Let's go. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Yo, it's lit. It's lit. Bayot started it off. Tika came in. M4. Lord. We're going to call him Lord Push-Uppington. Lord Push-Uppington. When we was doing the official challenge, now technically everybody's supposed to still be doing their daily work. You know what I'm saying? Especially prayer times and all that. Right? We just passed prayer time. But this guy, every single day, he found a new way to do push-ups. It got to the point where we were just all looking at his page to see what was he like, what was he getting ready to do today? Oh my goodness. Yeah, he was a blessing to the group for sure. I definitely did not get the packages, but now I will be on the lookout for them. Right? But listen, we've had 3 cultures. I want y'all to understand this. 3 cultures, right? 3 super cultures, 3 dominant cultures that dominated the globe. We're still inside the third. Actually, we're in the mix of the second and the third. The second and the third is still in competition for your soul, for your mind, right? For your spirit, for your consciousness, however you choose to phrase that, right? So we start with Kemet, right? Kemet gives us the QRST, the Christ, the QRST, centered around the heart, right? From there, we move into a baby of Kemet, right? An orphan, kidnapped, adopted, but baby of Kemet nonetheless, right? We move into Christianity, right? And the crazy thing is the word survives. Think about what I'm saying. The word survives, right? The word. So the pathway to divinity, we'll say that. I think that's the least inflammatory term we can use, right? The pathway to divinity, the pathway to eternity, right? The pathway to tie you back to your creator, to the source, right? The pathway to healing, to health, to wealth, all of those things. Through the anointed Christ or QRST, right? Which ultimately is about the heart, right? Somehow that survives. And then that basic blueprint, because everything else we can view as fluff. We can take the entire Kmetic everything, right? I would never, right? But I'm just saying, for sake of conversation, we could reduce the entire Kmetic everything down to fluff. We could disintegrate everything except for that, and we would have the meat and potatoes, right? If we just understood that it was the heart, and that God or the gods were operating through your heart, right? And the heart was everything. We would still have the core of the teachings, right? And there's a word, right? And that word somehow lasted, right? To the second culture, right? And the word became flesh, and the word was with him, and the word woo, 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 woo. Well, this word seems to have lasted, right? So now we have Christianity. Now, what is the culture that replaced Christianity? That's a question. What is the culture that replaced Christianity? For the family that's in the that's watching in the chat. Who's active, right? What is the culture that replaced Christianity? We go from Kemet, superculture, global superpower, right? Then we go to Christianity, right? Superculture, global superpower, right? What replaces Christianity? Boom. Man, you just put that right there. You ain't even give nobody else a chance to get it wrong or anything. You just came right immediately. Whoop. Science. Science is the thing that replaced Christianity. And we're still living globally somewhere in between Christianity and science, right? So now science pops up. I'm trying not to even pay you no attention right now, babe. I'm trying. Right? But Satanism has not popped up. Satanism has been around from the very beginning. Yeah, Satanism has been around from the very beginning. Yeah. That's why we have to be careful about the, like early on, that should have been a clue that the white man is the devil philosophy was wrong. It had a super large inherent flaw, right? It had a huge flaw in it. You know what I'm saying? Like we should have recognized that early on. But science comes along and replaces or attempts to replace Christianity. And the whole idea of science is that, well, science is everything Christianity is not, right? Christianity requires you to believe without knowing, without evidence, without facts, without proof. And science, well, science has a monopoly. In fact, the only way that you can have a fact is through science. So that was a mind game right out. Yo, right off the back, that was a mind game, right? That was a mind game. And you may not fully understand why I'm saying that's a mind game, but in order to really grasp it, you got to understand how nations used words and languages to colonize the world, right? So there are lots of conversations. You know what I'm saying? Most time, history only focuses on knives and guns. History only focuses on knives and guns. That's why largely, it's a waste of time, right? Because you're not learning anything. History has very little to do with knives and guns, but that's what history focuses. The pen or the sword, the question, what's mightier, the pen or the sword? History in school focuses almost exclusively on the sword, and the sword it's not even a comparison of what's more powerful, because the sword doesn't even move until the pen, like the sword doesn't even get picked up until the pen go, like, so there's not even a conversation of sword, so that's just for the ignorant masses, that question. That's not even a real question for somebody, that knows a little bit about history, because I'm not even a history buff, right? But history's always been about strategy, and like even our spiritual systems tell us the world was created with the word. Like there's nothing that could be more powerful than a word, right? So, but that's a mind game, right? Because facts belong to science. You get indoctrinated that you can't, you can't prove a thing without a fact. And that in and of itself is incorrect, because the actual original definition of proof is math, is geometry, right? You prove a thing with geometry. You prove a thing with math. Right. So the fact thing, Johnny come late. Anyway, so science comes along to replace Christianity. Right. So the crazy thing, though, is science replaces Christianity, and then it keeps the Christ thing. It keeps the QRST. Right. It keeps the however you want to slice it. QRST is the same. It's the same as CHRIST. It's the same as KAR. It's the same. Listen, it's the same. However you would like to flip and bounce it, because we know really vowels are like assistants, but vowels don't make words. Like it's consonants. You know what I'm saying? So, you imply vowels, but vowels get shifted over time, and it gets what you have the framework. You have a framework. So, you can look at the world, and some people would say it's pure coincidence. QRST, those letters just go back to back to back. That's just pure coincidence. They could have just used any letters for that. They could have used any letters for that. It could be ABCD, right? It could be, WXYZ. It could be any letters. It just so happens that it's QRST, right? Random. Yeah, it's random, right? Now, the problem with that, right? The problem with that is, first of all, we're talking about the single most important thing in the entire universe. The QRST complex is the single most important thing in the entire universe. There is nothing more important in the entire universe to an individual life than the QRST complex. Because if that stops, that's it for you. You cease to exist. Yeah, you cease to exist. Period. That is the most important thing inside of a human body. Period. And that's a fact that has never changed, right? From the very first humans on this planet to the very last humans that will occupy this planet. That will never change. The QRST complex is the most important thing period. The same this year, it's the same last year, 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,500 years ago, where we have our earliest depictions of the weighing of the heart ceremony as the most important thing in life, like that. It's the number one killer. Heart disease. It's the number one killer. Like we can dissect this conversation from so many different ways, and it still comes back to the same answer. Right? If we want to go to the very oldest spiritual religious tradition, it's way in the heart. That's just what it is. Right? If we want to talk about science today, number one cause of death, heart disease. Right? Like, however if we talk about the phonetics, the sound, the word, like it comes back to this. So if somebody says to you, right? If somebody says to you, oh, the QRST, that's totally random, right? That's not real science. It only take you a matter of 2 or 3 questions for that person to totally do their own 360. They'll do their own 360 degree. You just got to give them room to talk. Don't get excited. Don't try to like bombard them with facts. Sometimes not talking is more effective. Like just listening can be more effective than talking. Right? Sometimes a person needs to hear their own voice. And you can just check with them periodically to ask them if they heard what they just said. That's it. So if a person if a person implies or they flat out tell you that QRST is just random, they could have used any letters as variables to ask them if they believe that anything in this universe is random. Because science uses that the same way, like in times gone by, right? Before science, quote unquote, in its new capacity, its new outfit, its new clothes, before modern science existed, things that people didn't understand, they said it was magic. Well, science came along, and things that science doesn't understand, they say is random. It's the same thing. It's, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer that I can prove, i.e., I don't have an answer that I can substantiate with facts, right? I don't have the math. So, yeah, here's this term, right? So where your answer is, oh, that's magic, especially if somebody could do something unexplainable, like over and, oh, yeah, that's magic, right? Today, we would say that's random. The problem is, today, we have enough information to know that there is no such thing as random. There's no such thing as random. There are only things that we don't have an explanation for. But that is not the same as saying that they're random. Right? So if you ask a person that believe, oh, well, that was random. Okay, so do we have laws of physics? Are we living in a random universe, or are there laws that govern this universe? It can't be both. So you just allow a person to talk to themselves. Oh, well, the laws of physics don't apply to, if you're getting into thoughts or, energy, or let's stop you right there. Have you ever heard of quantum mechanics? Have you ever heard of coherent domains? Have you ever heard of quantum entanglement? Have you ever heard of superposition? Have you ever heard of quantum tunneling? Oh, so there are laws that govern every facet of our universe, even if we don't know them, because remember, 99% of the light in our world, we are incapable of perceiving. 99% of the sound in our world, we are incapable of perceiving. But just because we have not figured it out yet, because that's what we make tools for. See, that's what gives us our superpower, because the things that we're incapable of, we're able to make tools. See, that's all our ancestors were doing with, certain types of, binary math and divination and things like that. They were making tools to figure out some stuff that, to figure some stuff out. Same thing we're doing. AI is everywhere. AI is it's a divination tool. AI is a divination tool. If you don't believe me, right, just open up another window. Just open up another window and type in and ask Google, does AI tell lies or hallucinate? Just ask Google. Does AI tell lies or hallucinate? And Google will defend itself. The AI will defend itself. It's almost like if you ask black folks like about fried chicken, or if you ask white folks about not being able to dance or something, white folks collectively get defensive, black folks collectively get defensive, AI can collectively get defensive, and they will give you a nice long answer, but they will not lie. So the answer will be like, it'll be like gobbledygook, but they will have to admit AI lies. So some platform, they say, oh, well, what'll happen is because the AI is very advanced. So if it doesn't know the answer, what it will do is make, educated guesses, or sometimes it will hallucinate, or it will just go ahead and fill in a blank to maintain the, the ability to, so it will lie. Right? It just is what it is, right? We you can't know it all at once. That's just what it comes down to, right? But the universe is not random. So the fact that there's one set of sounds has survived 6,000 years, different cultures, nations, languages, to communicate the very same thing, right? That's the conversation. That's the conversation. That is the conversation. We just spent, how long we've been talking? An hour. That's the conversation you have. So if you want to talk to your neighbor or somebody you just met on the gram or whoever, and you want to talk to them about improving their health, but they look like they're probably healthier than you, you have to have the heart conversation. You have to have the heart conversation. You have to have the QRST conversation. You have to have the Christ conversation, the QRST conversation. That's the conversation to have. Now, for the other people, like we said, there's two groups. There are the relatively healthy folks, and that extends to the people that are probably healthier or look healthier anyway than you do, right? And then there are the folks that are struggling with a fungus they can't get rid of, some sort of rash or recurrent infection or diabetes, cancer, kidney disease, bipolar, they have an affliction. Everybody's affliction. There's no such disease that doesn't affect the QRST complex. Everything affects the QRST. Everything affects that electromagnetic wave inside your heart that makes your heart beat. That's why heart disease is the #1 cause of death, because everything affects that electromagnetic wave that allows your heart to beat. Everything. Everything. In your mind, you might be thinking about kidney disease or cancer or autoimmune or diabetes or Alzheimer's. I'm saying everything, I'm including those things, but I'm saying everything down to stubbing your toe on the edge of the bed in the early morning. You woke up, the lights was off, you done stubbed your toe. Arguing with your children, they done came home with the crazy report card, or your lady, or your husband, or any little everything affects that QRST. It affects that electromagnetic wave that allows you to exist. The center of your existence, the center of everyone's existence, right? So that is the conversation. That's where everybody meets in common. That's where everybody, the muscly guy, the fat one, the strong one, the sick one, the skinny one, the short one, the tall one, the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 90-year-old. Everybody. Your sexual performance is based on that electromagnetic wave in your heart. That's why having poor sexual performance is an early warning sign of heart disease, right? Your ability to concentrate and study, your ability to do well on a test, right? In school, in college, your ability to run whatever that thing is. Where do they run a 40? Run a 40, right? Your ability to run a 40 is based on that electromagnetic wave in your heart. Every single thing is based on that. Period. Everything. The Wizard of Oz is one because because of the wonderful things that he does. Right? That is the wizard. Right? That is the wizard. So all conversation, right? That's the nexus point. That's the thing. So if you want to know the systematic discussion that we've created to bring people to our culture, to inspiration. That's the name of our culture. That's what we've called ourselves. Inspirationalist, right? If you want to bring people over here to be inspired, right? If you want them to study with you, if you want to build your study group, if you want to get your mom on, your dad on, the people in your gym, right? The people in your gym that, they faster than you, bigger, stronger, 6-pack more, whatever.
Osborne, bro, listen. The single most important thing about diabetes you gotta remember is, listen, as a matter of fact, when we get in the Bentley, I'll explain it. Thank God Jimmy sent us this Bentley. Listen, wait. Take us to the mansion. Get us to the mansion. My wife. From the crown of thorns to facial chains and diabetes, you have never heard this much knowledge before in a zombie story. It could only be quantum entanglement with the big homie. This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject.
Yeah, a little bit of that 60 and 60 action. Yo, we got digital EnQi working out. Come on, man. Seriously. Right? So everything really comes down to this electromagnetic wave that's generated in your heart. Period. And we got it. We got it. We got it. We put the time in, we put the work in, and it was given to us, right? Some of y'all were watching the video. Some of y'all were watching the live stream, and this is a couple years back. But some of y'all were watching that live stream when we was in here celebrating, acting a fool, talking about we finished, we killed diabetes, it's over. Next, we're gonna tackle heart disease, blah, blah, blah. Some of y'all was watching that live stream, right? Some of y'all watched it on playback, right? But I know some of y'all remember that moment, right? And so, yeah, that's kind of just how we got here, just study, diligent, and without getting spooky, without making it spooky action at a distance. Right? That's how we got here. So that's the conversation, right? That is the focal point of your conversation. Now, in terms of inspiration, right? In terms of inspiration is inspiration's a very good term to use, right? To create a conversation, right? So if people are looking for a term, which people will, they'll look for a term like, what is the name of your group? What's the name of your organization? What's the name of your religion or your culture or your cult even, right? It's cool, right? What's the name of, what is your organization, right? Inspiration, that's our name, inspiration. That's what we're into. That's what we're studying. That's what we're building on. Now, 99% of the world, when you tell them that, right? When you tell them that, oh, inspiration, got it. They're going to put me or they're going to put you in a space with like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, E.T. the hip hop preacher, or the 10,000 brand new motivational social media gurus that go online every single day. I think that was the last statistic I saw. Every day there's like 10,000 brand new internet motivational speakers, right? So if you ask somebody what's the definition of inspiration, 99.99999% of the people are going to tell you that the definition of inspiration is some form of positive motivation. Something to that effect. Yeah, you're going to inspire somebody to do whatever, or you're going to teach them to whatever. Like, almost, I haven't met a person yet. And trust me, I'm having this conversation with y'all just to give y'all tools in your work belt, right? Tools in your tool belt, weapons, if you will, however you want to think about the conversation, right? But I'm giving you two, and I'm giving you the ones I use, right? So if you ask folks, I haven't met a person to get it correct. I have not met a single person that I have asked, what's the definition of inspiration, that has told me to breathe, that has told me spirit. Nobody has said anything about respiration. Nobody has said anything about spirituality. Nobody has said anything about, like, even though that's absolutely the definition of inspiration. Inspiration, the definition of inspiration is to inhale, to breathe in. That is the definition of inspiration, right? To breathe in. Now, to breathe in is the most impactful thing on your heart health. Breathing is the thing that impacts your heart the most. So, just so we follow it, the center of everything we're doing centers around the heart, right? In case you go, well, wait a minute, what does that have to do with diabetes? Diabetes is the #1 cause of heart disease. So we didn't leave diabetes anywhere. #1 killer, heart disease. #1 cause of #1 killer. That's how we graduated diabetes. And then we was looking for the next biggest bully in the room. You know, that's how I was raised from the neighborhood. You find the biggest one. Yeah. You find the biggest one in the room and you single him out. And then once you take care of him, you Gucci. Nobody else want any smoke. You get the biggest one. And so after diabetes, we was like, oh yeah, well, we're going to get the biggest one. We'll wrestle with brain disease. Like, we're going to get that. Yeah, with that. Yeah. Bring him out right there. Yeah, bring him out. Yeah, we're going to call him out. We want the smoke with you. Yeah, you. Yeah, you, the big one. Yeah, you, come on. So that's how we kind of got to the heart disease thing, right? So don't think that we're going, no, diabetes doesn't kill anybody. Diabetes is not a killer, right? Diabetes is Tupac. Diabetes is, I ain't a killer, but don't push me. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. Nobody dies from diabetes. That's not a real thing. There's not been one death from diabetes ever. Just like AIDS. There's never been a death from AIDS. Ever. No one has died from AIDS. No one has ever died from diabetes. What happens is diabetes, like AIDS, right? Now, they have different mechanisms, but they do the same thing. Diabetes cripples your body and allows something else to kill you. AIDS specifically cripples your immune system. So AIDS is much more specific than diabetes. Diabetes is going to cripple your energy system. And because every system in your body is reliant upon your energy system, you don't know what's going to go first, right? So you may have organ failure, brain disease, heart disease. You don't know what's going to go first, right? But typically, because your heart requires the most energy, think about it now. Because your heart requires the most energy, right? Wait a minute. The brain, no. The heart requires the most energy. Stands to reason. But you can make that argument. That's why the brain is the #2 killer, right? So, and diabetes also causes brain disease. So you can go in either direction. But once the energy system collapses, the 2 gas guzzlers, which is the heart and the brain, follow right behind it, right? The 2 gas guzzlers, right? The heart's a gas guzzler, the brain's a gas guzzler. We only think about the brain as a gas guzzler because the heart has ways to take care of itself. The heart's a hustler. The heart is a hustler. The heart will do, use fatty ass. The heart's a hustler, right? The heart is a hustler. Heart's efficient, the heart's a hustler. So we only think of the brain, you know what I'm saying? The brain is flashy and all over the place, right? But that's how it goes. So don't get lost, right? Don't get lost in the shuffle. We still focused, right? So diabetes cripples the energy system, opens up the door for something else to kill you. AIDS cripples your immune system, opens up the door for something else to kill you, right? But they in and of themselves don't kill you. When a person dies, they die from complications of diabetes, or they die from complications of the AIDS, HIV or AIDS or whatever, the complications of. But you didn't die by, right? That's not the same like cancer, right? When you die from cancer, you're not dying from complications of cancer. You're dying from cancer. Cancer has taken you out of here. When you die from kidney disease, it's because your kidneys stopped functioning and kidneys have taken you out of here. When you die from heart disease, your heart has stopped functioning. Your heart has taken you out. It's not the same like AIDS or diabetes, right? So the focus is, once you get to the deeper stages of the focus, you bring other things into the picture. But inspiration to breathe in. Respiration is a breath cycle, right? Breathe in, breathe out, right? So you have inspiration, exhalation, right? Inhalation, exhalation. That makes respiration, right? But inspiration, the process of breathing in, right? That comes from the same root word for spirit, which is the breath, right? And that is the most impactful thing on the heart. So again, when you go back to Kemet, see, this is how you know we've never really left Kmetic science. Whether we moved into Christianity or modern science, we're still dealing with Kmetic science. They left everything in stone. They left it in stone so we could never forget, even though we forgot. You know what I'm saying? We waking it up. Like that's inspiration is largely a Kmetic religion. If we had to nail it down to something, it's just really an older version. It's just like the original. We just going back to the original, right? But when you go back to the standard of beauty in Kemet, the standard of beauty depicted by the word beauty itself, right? Think about this. They could have made any picture for the word beauty. They could have chosen anything to depict the word beauty. They could have picked like the sun. We got Amun, Amen, we got Ra, we got Kepra, we got Atum. Like we got so many different solar deities from Kemet. They could have easily went sun, right? They could have went female. They could have did some old black goddess. They could have did that. They could have did some womb, right? They could have went womb on us. They could have went to a male. They could have went men. Phallic. They could have went obelisk on us. They could have. There's a zillion different directions they could have went. They could have went aesthetic. They could have went geometry. They could have went like shape. They could have did some old pyramid hexagram. They could have went, with a mathematically aligned shape, encoded with phi and whatever. They could have went there with it, right? They didn't do any of that. They had infinite possibilities to choose from. Even though they would have said they had no choice, right? But right, that's just, they chose the windpipe and the heart. So the symbol, the standard, which is the symbol for beauty in Kemet, is a windpipe and a heart. Yo. Listen, what you gonna do? This is why, right? This is why the only thing that colonists could do with Kemet is just separate you from ever wanting to learn the information. Right? Even when people were at their the interest in Kmetic, Egyptian, whatever, by Europeans, black folks, even when it was at its highest, they diverted everybody's attention, and it lasts till today, till I came along, really. You know what I'm saying? But they diverted everybody's attention into the Rosetta Stone. Oh, this is the language. Yeah, metal natural language. Learn this. These are the words of the gods. Yeah. So folks done wasted almost 70 years, almost 100 years, nobody studying actual Kemetic science. People using the term Kemetic science, but the Kemetic science was actually just studying Kemetic elementary school. Yeah. Professors telling you, I got my PhD in Kemetic studies. You got your PhD in elementary school. That's what you got. That's when somebody tells you they got a PhD in studying Kemetic, whatever, they have a PhD. They spent $300,000 or more, maybe $500,000 studying elementary school. It is the craziest grift of all time. The craziest scamtuation of all time. You're like, wait a minute, what are you saying, Doc? What you saying don't make no sense right now. You gotta just see. Sometimes that's why I gotta talk slow, because sometimes some of these things need a moment to hit you. It ain't gonna hit you right away. It's delayed effect. It's like dim mock. You know what I'm saying? I might hit you so hard and so specific today, you might not die for like 9 days, but in 9 days you might start coughing up blood from the hit I gave you. Yeah. Every nation on earth, right? Every nation on earth, you learn language first. Elementary school, that's kindergarten, daycare, you're learning the language. Yeah, you learn that. You learn that first, because you can't learn anything else until you learn the language. Until you learn the language and start reading and all that, you can't learn the science and right? Unless somebody translates, because science is universal, right? So I can learn the universal laws in any language because they're universal laws, right? So I can learn the same thing taught in Kemet in English. I can learn it in Russian. I can learn it in Chinese. I just have to figure out what it is that's being taught. And that may or may not require the language, which is the beauty of using pictures. That's kind of why I had pictures, right? So that 5,000 years later, even if we have no grasp of the language, we know what a windpipe and a heart looks like, because, well, we still have windpipes and hearts. Yeah, we still have windpipes and hearts. So we can just look at a windpipe and a heart from 5,000 years ago, and we know what it looks like. We don't. A picture transcends time. It transcends language limits. So we could just, get right to the get down. So they already knew the most important thing was the heart, And the most impactful thing on the condition of your heart was your breathing. So they took that and put that together. Windpipe, heart, you have beauty, right? You have beautiful. You have Nefer. That's what that means. That's what Nefer is. It's the essence of Kmetic spirituality, Kmetic religion, Kmetic science, the Netchers, the Netcheru, everything. It culminates in that term, Nefer. Right? Nefer, very close to Netcher, right? Now, today, right, in today's world, our term beauty, right, our term beauty wouldn't even be synonymous with that term, even though we use it like, like it's one for one, but it's not. That term, Nefer, is a lot more closer to quantum entanglement than what we like in our language today. The term Nefer would probably translate a lot closer to quantum entanglement than it would to what we consider beauty. Like what we consider beauty, think about it. What we consider beauty today, you can purchase at the beauty salon. Like you can purchase beauty. Like there's beauty salons. I mean, beauty supply places. Forget about the beauty salon. There's beauty supply. So a person can re-up on beauty. Like you purchase beauty, and when you run out of beauty, right, you go back to the beauty supply place and you get more, you get more of it at the beauty supply place because they sell it in there. Don't get mad with me. Yeah, these are just facts. If we understand language, like if we don't understand language and we're stuck in like illiterate world where we don't know what words mean, so we just ascribe our own definitions to everything, then beauty supply place means something else. But if we know what beauty supply means, it means you purchase beauty in there, which is the reason why beauty supply places are primarily in Black communities, because only Black people are under the assumption that they're intrinsically ugly, so they have to purchase these, supplies from the beauty place, which are not owned by Black people. So other people that are not Black have beauty, understand beauty, and so they can come and set up shop in Black neighborhood and then sell beauty stuff to you. Oh yeah, this is beauty right here. This is what we use. So yeah, you put on some of this. Or this looks like us, like, yeah, that hair, yeah, you can get rid of your hair. Just put some of this on it, yeah. Yeah. You can cover up your skin with this or that black stuff. What is that? That melanin? Yeah, put this lotion on there. It'll get rid of that melanin. It'll take that right off of you. Yeah, we can get some of this cream right here. This is vanishing cream, beauty cream. They don't call it beauty cream anymore. They changed it. This vanishing cream. Yeah, this will erase that right on off you. You'll get rid of all that brown and black. Yeah, we'll get rid of all that melanin stuff. Clean you right up. Yeah. Yeah, you'll be beautiful within hours. You'll be beautiful in hours, right? So the Kmetic idea of beauty, totally distant from our current idea, right? And then if we don't even have the beauty supply conversation, we could talk about BBLs, right? Purchasing bodies. Like literally Kanye's mom. Listen, I'm gonna just end it. Our definition of beauty is not a 1-to-1 ratio with Kemet. It's not even close, right? The Kmetic understanding, I ain't even gonna say definition, to soil it, right? Think about that. Think about soil. Soil means to dirty, to denigrate, to bring down. Yet, the very people who give us that definition of soil also give us Genesis. It says that God created man. Anyway, so in Kemet, the idea of beauty, right? The idea of beauty had more to do with the natures, the gods. And when I say the gods, for people that may just be watching for the first time, we don't mean like in Kemet, they didn't have white gods, they had black gods. So in Kemet, they must have believed that there were black people that lived in clouds as opposed to the white people that live in cloud. There are no people that live in clouds or inside the sun, or that's not Kmetic science or religion, right? It's just anthropomorphized types of energy. That's that. That's it. The human embodied a variety of energy, a variety of energies. Science tells us the same thing, right? We got the four main, and then we got a whole bunch of, So how we differentiate, categorize different types of energy from the modern to the ancient, right? The ancients versus the moderns, hint, hint, wink, wink, right? Different, but the premise that 99% that we can't see and we can't hear is responsible for creating the world that we can see and hear, the world of matter, right? The world that matters, the world of matter, that matters, of matter, that matters, of matter, that matters. That part, right? That's what they were talking about. So your ability to embody the gods, your ability to be energized, your ability, to remember, to run, to laugh, to play, to work, right? To work, the most important thing, to work, right? That was the whole idea. That was beauty, right? That was beauty. That was beauty. And that came through the nose. So the nose was known as the home of the gods, right? Think about these things. Think about what we have left from them. The nose is the home of the gods. Beauty is the windpipe and the heart. I don't see how they could be more specific, but I get that I've been studying this a long time. But this all culminates in our understanding of what inspiration is and why the movement collectively is called inspiration, right? Because on the surface level, that's what we want to do. We want to inspire people, right? We want to inspire. But beneath the surface, the thing that we want to inspire you to do is to increase your VO2 max, right? Increase your VO2 max. Yeah, increase your VO2 max. What is VO2 max? Respiration efficiency, your ability to breathe. We want you to be more efficient at breathing. Now, how do you get more efficient at breathing? Those things you already know. Drink more water, exercise more, eat better. It's not that deep. It can be, because we can study those things and perfect them with specificity, right? But in the general sense, we want to inspire folks to inspiration. We want to inspire you to inspiration, right? Heart health, right? What's the next level to that, right? Because inspiration, respiration. Well, respiration is where does respiration take place in your body? Nose, windpipe, lungs, right? We can have that conversation, right? And we kind of have, right? Nose, windpipe, lungs, right? But then we can go to a deeper level with respiration, right? Because we have respiratory proteins. Respiratory proteins. What are respiratory proteins? What are respiratory proteins? Respiratory proteins are your cytochromes, right? Cytochrome and respiratory proteins are synonymous, right? That's inside the mitochondria. So inside the mitochondria, right? So all of those mitochondria conversations are actually inspiration/respiration conversations, right? Because inside the mitochondria, the electron transport chain is made out of respiratory proteins. Respiratory proteins. So when you get to respiratory proteins, now you get to a whole nother universe. Right? When you get to respiratory proteins, you get to a whole nother universe. You leave physics. Right? So physics stops at mitochondria. I want y'all to understand this. Physics stops. Physics stops at mitochondria. Mitochondria is the end of physics. So the human body, primarily, at the macro scale, is governed by the laws of physics. When you get to mitochondria, the laws of physics stops. Because when you get to mitochondria, you are no longer dealing with the world of atoms. See, the world of atoms and everything built out of atoms is what the laws of physics is about. Physics is about atoms and things made out of atoms, compounds, molecules, wood, people, plants, planes, cars, physics. When you get to the subatomic world, right, that's where the quantum mechanics comes in. Right now, back in Kemet, that was called the underworld of Asar, right? The underworld of Wusia, right? That was that space, right? The underworld, the world responsible for creating everything here, right? The subatomic, right? So that's mitochondria. Mitochondria is electrons, protons. That's what's happening in mitochondria. Electrons, protons. Electrons, protons. Electrons, protons. Get that in your mind. Electrons, protons, right? Electricity, protonicity. Electricity, protonicity. Electricity, protonicity. Electricity, protonicity. That's what's happening in mitochondria. Now, it gets deeper, right? It gets deeper because we're also dealing with, right, magnetism, and we're also dealing with light in mitochondria. So mitochondria are like the little threads of neath, right? This is where the subatomic world is threaded together. And literally, that's the definition of mitochondria. So but we'll leave neath out of this, right? Neither. We'll leave neath in the neither world, right? electrons, protons, right? So as electrons move through these respiratory proteins, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Respiratory proteins, respiration, right? Cellular respiration, right? Electrons move through. As electrons move through, protons move through at a 90-degree angle, right? Electron, proton. That's what's happening. Electrons and protons are moving at 90-degree angles to one another. Isn't that interesting? Electrons and protons moving at 90-degree angles to one another, just like electric fields and magnetic fields, just like we're taught in masonry. The square is the most important thing, right? Yeah. But for John Q. Public, y'all are taught that the square is like the four-sided flat thing. That's not really the square. The square is the 90-degree angle. Like that's the square, right? So electric fields and magnetic fields cross, right? 90-degree angle, produce light. Well, inside your mitochondria, electrons and protons are doing that same thing. Now, these respiratory proteins are pigments. So we got subatomic energy being channeled and harnessed by pigment, right? Respiratory proteins are pigment. So immediately, when we realize we're talking about pigments, that brings photons into the conversation. That's because that's what pigments do, right? That's what pigments do. They bring photons into the conversation, right? So these respiratory proteins are actually pigments, the same pigment as your blood, right? So when we breathe in, our blood carries that oxygen. Then in our cells, much smaller fractions of those same pigment is doing this electron proton thing, right? Okay. Now we having this conversation so you at home can learn this conversation so you can go out into the world and find the Christians, the Muslims, the atheists, the agnostics, and bring them over to inspiration. Now, do they have to stop being a Christian to be with us? No. Do they have to stop being a Muslim to be with? No. Do they have to stop being Buddhist or this? No. This is like open AI. It is an open religion of ours. We have an open culture. We welcome everybody. Fat, skinny, muscular, pudgy, tall, short, white, black, yellow, old, young. Everybody has a heart that they need to protect. Right? Everybody has a heart they need to protect. Everybody needs to know this. This is the body manual. Like this is life 101. This is the divine message if there ever was one, which is the reason why the term Christ, right? It has survived 6,000 years through every culture that supposedly replaced the other one. It's just crazy that Christianity replaced everything Kmetic except that part. And then science replaced everything Christian except that part. Right? So mitochondria stops right there. The laws of physics end right there. And now you get into the underworld of Usia or the world or quantum mechanics, however you want to do it. Subatomic particles now, photons, electrons, protons, right? The electrons primarily coming from water and from your food. The protons are coming from water. The photons, well, all the respiratory proteins are pigments, so there's that, right? We'll get into specifics later with the types of light and blah, 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 blah. But you know, so that's coming, but that's for now, right? right? And you don't want to overload a person. I'm just giving you everything in this conversation that you could pick and choose. Like Nas said, I left some jewels in his coat that he could sell if he chose. Words of wisdom from Nas, try to rise up above. Keep your eye out for Jake, Shorty Rock, one, you know. So I'm just giving you all the jewels. And then when you having your conversations out there, you know, you frugal, you know, you know, you sprinkle, you know, you give the jewels that are appropriate for the you know, comprehension level conversation, you know, person you're talking to, etc. Right? So also, right? So in this, you know, mitochondria, right? What do we have in these electron transport chains, right? So we got electrons, we got protons, we got photons. We could stop at electrons and photons because that is literally the co-stars of the Life movie. Photons and electrons. Everything else is an extra in their movie. Everything else in the entire universe is an extra in the movie of photons and electrons. But we can go further, right? You got pigments, right? And then you also have iron, right? Iron. You have iron up in there. Yeah. It's in there, right? You have iron sulfur clusters, right? And the sulfur is, you know, the sulfur varies, right? The amount of sulfur, the sulfur varies, right? The behavior of the sulfur varies. Sulfur is, but it's in there. The iron sulfur clusters. So inside the mitochondria, inside the cristae, inside the folds where the electron transport chain is, right there in the mixed of the respiratory proteins, you have iron sulfur clusters, little magnets, right? So now we got electricity, electrons, right? We got electricity, electron, flow of electricity, flow of electrons. We got actual iron clusters in there. So you know we got we got electricity representing itself. We got magnetism representing itself, right? And then we got pigment. So we have light representing itself. So inside mitochondria is subatomic everything. The worlds of physics, the laws of physics don't apply here. Now, the most important thing for our conversation, right? See how I do that? You know what I'm saying? Look around, make sure, you know, it's just me and you talking. You know what I'm saying? Look around, you know, just the most important thing for our conversation, me and you, right, is to understand quantum entanglement. And not everything, just a few key pieces about quantum entanglement. Yeah. Oh, that was an ad lib. I came back for the yeah. Yeah. Few key pieces, right? The key pieces are, well, really just one main key piece. It's just one main key piece. And the one main key piece is subatomic particles that have the same origin are automatically quantumly entangled. Subatomic particles that have the same origin are automatically quantumly entangled. Subatomic particles that have the same origin. Now they can get programmed. They can get deprogrammed, reprogrammed, and then it's something else. But subatomic particles have the same origin are automatically quantumly entangled. What is the largest source of subatomic particles on Earth? Boom, 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 sun. This is why we got surface level reasons, right? We got a lot of surface level reasons, right? There's a lot of surface level reasons where we can go, oh, wait a minute. The reason why the ancestors deified the sun is because the sun is always right there. Yeah. And the sun gives us light and it gives us heat. Yeah. And they must have figured out that the sun is growing the plants, it's growing the food. So yeah, they deified the sun. We could do that. Plausible. Absolutely plausible. But correlation is not causation. Right? So if we assume that our ancestors did not know as much as we do today, right, then that would make that more plausible. But if we assume that they knew at least as much as we know today, like at intelligence level at the same, or maybe they knew more than us, then it might be safe to say they understood that in an intimate way, we were connected with the sun. Or with the thing behind the sun. Because it may not be the sun, just the sun is the representative here in our solar system. Right? Here in our solar system, we got the sun. That's our home star, right? Star, our celebrity, real celebrity, not like the fake celebrity. That's our actual star, right? Not a star because they got a lot of hits on Instagram or because they make $20 million per movie in Hollywood, but a star, real star. And that's our home star, right? So, and it also has the largest magnetic field and electrical activity. So by the scientific definitions, because science has a monopoly on facts, that would mean that the sun has the most information in our solar system, especially since 99% of the light in our universe, we cannot understand, we cannot perceive, we cannot interpret. 99% of electromagnetic radiation. 99%. 99.99 is even closer. And then with sound or mechanical waves, it's 99.999% we can't. Right? So all of these are conversational pieces that you can, have the conversation and go as deep as a person can take. Right? As deep as a person can go. Right? If they want to talk about Allah, they want to talk about Yahweh, right? You can go as deep as the person wants to go. Right? Or if they want to talk about physical performance, being able to bench press more weight or run fast, like you can go as, so that you can explain to them that yes, this is our thing, but it's not like a mythological thing. It's a science. It just also is spirit, because that's also science, because language arts is science. And so language arts says, and spirit is breath. Language arts says that. Language arts says inspiration is breathing. Breathing in specifically. And our science tells us that breathing in is how we improve our heart health. It's the thing that makes us live longer. It's the thing that makes our brain stronger. It's the thing that makes us more sexually, ital and vital, right? So in every sense of the word of living, it's the thing that makes us live stronger. And it's, right? So there's that part, right? So quantum entanglement, right? We stay in focus. Quantum entanglement happens a variety of ways because you have deprogramming, reprogramming, but the main thing is subatomic particles that have the same source are automatically quantumly entangled. So because they're automatically quantumly entangled, we have to ask ourselves, what is actually going on inside mitochondria? We don't know. If you assume, or you talking to somebody that assumes that they know, remind them that the brain and the heart and the brain are the two most dense places in the human body with mitochondria. And that's the number 1 and number 2 cause of death. So if you think that we know, if doctors are giving you the impression that we know, if scientists are giving you the impression that they know, it's just the impression. It's just so that they can do their job. It's just so that they can make money. But if you read the papers, it says, oh, we don't know. We're actually still trying to figure out. And they're really not, but they really are at the same time, because Einstein has already told everyone this is spooky action at a distance. We already know what quantum entanglement means. We just don't understand the ramifications, pun intended, emphasis on ram, right? The goat, right? We don't understand the ramifications, though, of being quantumly entangled, specifically at and through your heart, because that's where you express your strongest electromagnetism, which is the reason why the heart has the strongest magnetic field in the human body. So that would be your point of resonance with whatever the intelligence is that organized our universe. Right? So this is the reason why I really need a good marker for this. That green worked. That green worked for that. But that green is not going to work for what I actually need. Where did this lady put all her markers? Oh, this will work. This will work. A brand new blue. Blue is going to come through. Blue is going to do it. Blue is going to do it. Right? Blue is going to do it. Now, see, this is where we can get. This is where we can get crazy. This is where we can get crazy with it. See, this is how they turn you into a crackhead. Because your whiteboard does everything by itself right up until you use one of them juices on it. And then, I don't know what it is, but it like leaves some type of residue on your whiteboard where you now, you became an addict. Like you have to have these juices to spray on your board now, or it's not going to clean off properly, right? But let me show you this, right? Because this is important, right? For our culture, for inspiration, for our religion, for our science, right? So here's the Earth. Here's the sun. Okay, looks good so far, right? So it takes the Earth, right? It takes the Earth 360 plus 5 extra days. This is how we got it. From Isis, from Osset and Jehudi. This is how we got it. This is the Kmetic. This is how we got it from Kemet. We got 360 and then 5 extra days. Right? 360 plus 5 extra days. Right? This is way before Sumer was popping. With all due respect to Sumer, I love Sumerian culture, but Sumerian does not have a claim on this. Sumerians have just as much of a claim on this as Pythagoras. And Pythagoras, not even a real person, right? But we have this, right? 360 and 5 days, right? This gives us our working 365 days, right? 365 days, which we have turned into modern science. Modern science has turned this into, right, to move away from here and to stay here, right? To move away from this and to get here, right? Because in Kemet, the number was 9, right? In Kemet, the number was 9, right? In Kemet, the number was 9. But modern science moved us away from the number 9 towards the number 7, right? Towards the number 7, right? So that was a little magic trick that we went, right? Now, 3 plus 6 plus 0, number 9. 3 plus 6 plus 5 gives us 14. Right? 14 is what? That's the number of pieces that Asar or Osiris was chopped up into. Right? 14. Right? Listen, that's why I had to tell you at the beginning of this video. Remember, the original proof is geometry and math, long before facts ever came into play. The proof, to prove a thing, you use shapes or numbers. Shapes, numbers, right? So there are some hidden things that you'll see when you look at the numbers, right? This is how you have proof that God is a real thing, right? You have proof that God is a real thing because this just happens to be your blood pH, right? 7.365. 7 days a week, 365 days in a year. Very important, right? That you understand that the trip of the earth around the sun, right? The trip of the earth around the sun is how we have our pH. And I want this to settle in. This is today's video. It's very important, right? Because this video, I want you to be able to use parts of this video. I want you to watch this video multiple times. I want you to create now the new books that are out, right? So there's some new books that's out today. There's 3 new books that came out today. There's probably another 2 or 3 new books that'll be out tomorrow, right? So over the course of a week, we got about 6 or 7 new books. The new books focus on you learning to teach, becoming fishers of men, right? Fishers of men. That's our focus now. You becoming fishers of men. So this is very important that you understand this, right? Because this is the religion of Kemet, of Christ, of science, right? Of Kemet, of Christ, of science. So from the Kmetic world to the world of Christ that replaced the Kmetic world, to the world of science that replaced the Christian world, this is the unchanging thing. So when you have a conversation with anybody, this is the conversation to bring them to inspiration. Before you pull this out on them, I know you love this. I know everybody's proud of this book. Everybody's proud of this book. It makes it, you feel magic just holding this book, right? You feel magic just holding it, flipping it open, about to break something. I got you. But before you get poetic and you start trying to slap folks up and do battle with it, you got to learn this. This is the basics. This is the thing. This is our thing. This is the thing we stand on right here. This is our thing right here, right? So the trip of the earth around the sun takes 365 days, right? The trip of the earth, right? Now, let's think about this for a second. The sun is the center of our solar system, right? This is the center, right? The earth is an iron thingy, right? The earth is an iron thing in water, right? We just abstract, so we got this iron submerged in water rotating around the centerpiece, right? Now, in your blood, what do you have? Iron, I even got to write it again. In your blood, you have iron submerged in water at 7.365, right? The numbers are not, this is the signature of nature. This is the real as above, so below. This is not the fake like chakra, zodiac. This is the real thing. As above, so below. The iron earth rotates around the sun 365 days. That's now your pH. And you can only deviate within a fraction of a fraction of a fraction without dying. If this number goes up too high, alkalosis, you're dead. If this number goes too low, acidosis, you're dead. So this number can't even be played with. And what is this number primarily based off of? Whether you eat salad or meat, whether you eat fried chicken or follow Dr. Sebi's diet, absolutely not. CO2 and oxygen, right? Where we go back to Kemet. The most thing that impacts your pH is not your diet. It is your breath. It is your breathing. The ratio of oxygen circulating to the ratio of CO2 and lactic acid impacts this. This has the largest impact on everything else. This. Because if this moves, everything else moves. If I move, you move. Just like that. Help. Hey, DJ, bring that back. When this moves, everything else got to move. Everything else got to move. Period. If you're exercising, and you're producing too much lactic acid and too much carbon dioxide, your body will stop you. That's literally what makes your endurance. Your ability to keep your system, your blood oxygenated without being overwhelmed with glucose waste and muscle waste. Lactic acid, muscle waste, CO2, glucose waste, right? So 365 days, 360. How many weeks in a year? 52 weeks in a year. 365 days is 52 weeks, right? 5 plus 2 is 7. Right? So I'm just showing you so you can see that none of these things are accidental. None of these things are accidental. Right? You have Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, 7 different bands in the visible electromagnetic spectrum. 7 bands. .365. But 7 is not just the division of visible light. 7 is also the speed of visible light. 7 is also the speed of visible light. What are you talking about? The speed of light is 180,000. What? 180 something thousand, 299. What is it? 299 million meters per second. Ooh. Or the way they had it in Kemet, you could just say 7 times around the globe per second. That's the speed of light. 7 times around Earth. So light goes around the sun 1 time, 365 days, but light travels around Earth 7 times per second. Speed of light. Right? Okay. Now, I gotta work with me though, because I'm I got some crazy stuff going on in my personal life. So I need y'all to stay on top of these books and on top of this science. I need y'all to get this work, right? Okay. So now, $360 plus 5. Right. Now, some of y'all immediately understood where I was talking about the Sumerians, and I made the reference to Pythagoras. Right. Some of y'all may not have. This might be your first or second time watching Dr. EnQi. Right. Okay. So here's where this comes in. Right. Here's where this comes in. We have these guys. 3, 4, 5. And so, in order, like I told you earlier, to separate you from learning Kmetic science, right? They've positioned a person that they totally made up, like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, Pythagoras, right? The Easter Bunny gives you eggs, Santa Claus gives you gifts, Pythagoras gives you numbers, but they're all just like the same thing, right? They've positioned a safety mechanism just in case you happen to like, you know how black folks, we might juke you and get around you. We might juke you. Think about that. The Heisman Trophy is literally a juke. right? Like we done juked you. You know what I'm saying? They done turn that, they done freeze that. You know what I'm saying? They done freeze that move. Think of they done freeze that move and turn that into a Heisman Trophy, right? We might juke and spin off. You know, we might get around you, right? So, in case you happen to get around the Pythagoras myth, they done positioned the Sumerians right there. And they say, oh, well, the Sumerians. And see, that's when you find out, I'm telling you, that's one of the things I loved about the movie Ray so much. That line, scratch a lie, find a thief. Scratch a lie, find a thief, right? So when these textbooks tell you Pythagoras made up this, right? But the Sumerians made up this. Right? Oh, they came up with the base 12 and the 60 and the woo woo woo. Scratch a lie, find a thief. Because this is not separate things. The 3, 4, 5 is not separate from the 12 and the 60. This is half and half. They split up half the science. We're going to throw that on Pythagoras. And then we take the other half and we'll put that over there. And then, we ain't going to, that's how we do that. And then if anybody look into ancient Egypt or Kemet, we'll hit them in the head and with letters. Here's Mitochondria. Mitochondria. That's what they was doing in Kemet. They was doing alphabets. You mean the people that built the pyramids? They was doing alphabets? You mean you build pyramids with alphabets? Hold on. So the science of building a pyramid is alphabets? How do we let Sway? How did we let these people convince us that the science in Kemet that we should be focused on is the alphabet? That's crazy. That's a scam. People should get a refund. If you got a PhD in Kmetic studies, you should get a refund. If you was over there studying rocks and language arts, got him. Yeah, they got you. They got you. Okay. So the 3, 4, 5 and the 12 and the 60 is all one thing. Right? The 3, 4, 5, the 12 and the 60, it comes from that same thing again. The earth going around the sun. Right? The earth going around the sun. So here's what happens. Follow along. Here's what happens, right? Here's the 5. Here's the 5 right here. Right? Here's the 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all this. We're going to get rid of the 12, the 60, and the 5s. We're going to get rid of all that. We're just going to deal with the 360. All right? The number 3 and the number 4. Right? These two numbers give us this number. How does these two numbers give us this number? Okay. Because you can do them interchangeably. Now, Kemet did it a specific way, right? But today we do it differently. Remember, we went from the number 9 to the number 7. But the number 9 and the number 7, so I don't want to get too deep. Because if I go too deep into the numbers, we're going to cross a boundary. And we'll leave what people consider to be science and we'll move into like a numerology, gematria thing. And I don't want to do that. I'll send y'all over to King Simon. He's the GOAT when it comes to that. Shout out to King Simon if he sees the video. right? I want to stick with the actual factual, what people consider to be actual and factual, right? Because I don't want to imply that that's not, right? 4 months, right? 4 months, right? 3 seasons of 4 months gives us 12 months. 4 seasons of 3 months gives us 12 months. 3, 4, 12. These numbers come from the earth going around the sun, right? The earth going around the sun, 12 months. Today's world, we break that 12 months down into 4 seasons of 3 months each, right? In Kemet, they broke it down into 3 seasons of 4 months each, right? So you have 3 seasons of 4 months or 4 months of 3 seasons. Doesn't matter. Still gives us 12 months, right? It gives us 12 months with 5 extra days, right? 5 extra days. You say, there's no 5 extra days. It's 365 days. You got to relax. Because the 365 days is not written in stone either, which is the reason why we have a leap year, right? Every 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1 is just in case somebody way in the back, they need that, right? So, well, put me to the side and do what y'all do. All right. Don't make a mess. No, you don't know. Why do children always say that they know when you tell them don't make a mess, and then after they finish eating, you go right over there and look and see it's a mess everywhere? Anyway, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is where these numbers come from. 3, 4, 5, 12 months, right? Now you have an origin story for these numbers. Now, we can do this a whole nother way, right? I can go back to these numbers like this, right? I can go back to these numbers like this, right? And we can go 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. Or we can do this. 3 times 4 is 12 times 5 is 60. Right? 3, 4, 5 gives us the number 12. It also gives us the number 60. Now, it also gives us a hidden number if we do this, right? And once we get into the hidden numbers, now we move into the degree system, right? Because 72 is 1 degree of the great year. Okay, we're not doing that. But I would just throw that in your pocket, you know. He left some jewels in his coat that he could sell if he chose, right? Okay, so now we got this, right? We got this. Now we can look inside, right? We can look inside our bodies, and then we can see how these numbers, right? Now we can look inside our body. Now that we have an origin, right? Now we have an origin, right? Now I can put this back. We got an origin, right? Now I can do 7365 here, right? And you get it, right? Now I can do that. 7.365, you know, that's your pH. You got blah, 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 blah. Now we could get, now we could get a little swaggy, right? With the 12 and the 60. Right? Now we can get a little swaggy because if we think about a week, right? A week is 7 days, right? Remember, 3, 6, 5, it doesn't give us 7, right? 3 plus 6 plus 5 gives us 14. But guess what? 14 is what? It's a week. 14 is a week. Okay, we have two meanings for the word day, right? Day means what? When we say day, day refers to two things. Day refers to 24 hours, like the full thing, but day also refers to the 12-hour period, like the biblical day, like daytime, right? And how many 12-hour periods make up a week? 14. The same as the number of pieces of, okay. All right, we leave that. We'll leave that. Right? We'll leave that. We'll just go to the anatomy. Right? Your brain is connected to your body because you have 12 cranial nerves. Right? Those 12 cranial nerves connect to the body through the thoracic vertebrae. You have 12 of those. Right? Right? Okay. If we're talking about the heart, right? You have 60,000 miles of vessels, of which your blood travels every 60 seconds. You see how this? Okay. Let's just do this a whole nother way, right? Let's go back to that other conversation. Right? Let's go back to the other conversation. Because remember I said there's a point in the physical body, right? We literally call it the physical body. But the thing is, the root of the physical body is not physical. The root of the physical body is energy, right? It comes back to the same math. That's why this math is important. The root of the physical body is energy, goes back to the same math, right? Okay. When we talk about the mitochondria, what do we have? We have 5 respiratory proteins or 5 cytochromes, right? 5 respiratory proteins or 5 cytochromes. Each molecule of ATP requires 4 protons to be recycled. In order for the ADP to be turned back to ATP, it's 3 protons. Specifically, the motor that turns the protons holds 12 protons. This is the conversation. It's no other conversation. This is our conversation too. Because there's no video of Jack Cruz or Dr. Sabi or this right here. This is us. This is published in all of the books already. This us. So when you're having this conversation with somebody, this is an inspirational conversation. Now, anybody could choose to watch the video, try to flip it and bounce it. It's published already in multiple books of ours. They would just be spreading the word for us. And if they do that, then you could come right behind them and go, pop, 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 pop. Oh, you heard about that? Oh, yeah. Well, that's from here. Yeah, that's you didn't know that the truth. Yeah, we got the monopoly on the truth. Oh, yeah, no. You say you can't have a monopoly on the truth? Oh, we proving that you can. We proving that you can have a monopoly on the truth. Because this right here, this math, right? Proof, this math, this what makes the heart go. This what makes the brain go. This is how the mitochondria work. It just so happens that this is the relationship of our planet to our sun. Right? The magnetic field of the earth, the magnetic field of the sun, right? The magnetic field of the earth and the sun, right? Position Earth right at a space where it takes 365 days to go around it. 12 months, 52 weeks. That's based on magnetism. $7.365. The 7.365. The 7.365 in your blood is based on what? Magnetism. Because your ability to breathe is based on what? Making sure you have iron inside the pigment. You got to have the iron in the pigment in order for the pigment to be able to do its job with the electricity. The pigment can do its job with light without the iron. But in order for it to do its job with the electricity, in order for it to bring your atmosphere, the atmosphere of the earth, into your blood, magnetism. So you have to have the iron in order to bring that in, right? Because earth is magnetic. Hence Geb, right? Geb. Magnetic. The piece with the magnetic, right? The piece with the magnetic. Right? This is that math, right? The piece with the magnetic. That part. Right? So as above, so below. This is how electricity is utilized to recycle ATP. Utilized to recycle ATP, which gives you the electromagnetic wave that regulates, that gives you life. Now, mind you, we got this in the first few passages of the Bible, right? It's coded in there. It's like hidden in there. It's in there. It's just hidden in there because it's Kmetic science, so it got to be in there, right? But that's why you got 22 over 7. Right? 22 letters, 7 division. 7 days, 22 letters. That's pi. That's the Kmetic number for pi. What do you do with pi? 3.14. What do you do with that number? You measure the circumference of a circle. 360. Right? 722, 360. Yeah, but where did the 22 come from? We know where the 7 comes from. That's the light. Let there be light. Right? Knowledge, wisdom. Right? That's the 7 part. The 22, where did 22 come from? The 22 part comes from here. The heart. The heart. Study embryology and look at a baby. Right? When does the baby's heart develop? Right? So this is the conversation. Right? This is the conversation. This is the math that runs our universe. Right? This is the math that runs your heart. When these numbers change, your health changes. When these numbers change, your health changes for the better or for the worse. When your blood can no longer travel 60,000 miles in 60 seconds, you're losing your health. When your blood is now traveling at 60,000 miles in 70 seconds, 80 seconds, 90 seconds, you're losing your health, right? Because that is the speed that is taken for your nutrients to get around, for your oxygen to get around, right? So the slower the nutrients and the oxygen travels through the blood, the less healthy you are. The faster they travel, the more healthy you are. Right? It's not that deep to understand. It's not that hard to understand once you get it. 60,000 miles, 60 seconds. Right? Now, once your blood can no longer travel the entire 60,000 miles, forget about it slowing down. There's two sides to the equation. Wait a minute. There's two sides to that equation. 60,000 miles in 60 seconds. This is why we do what? A 60 in 60. This is why the push-ups, the central piece of the focus of our exercise program is 60 and 60. Because that's the central piece of your chemistry. 60 and 60. Right? So you have 60,000 miles, 60 seconds. Right? So we know this part. We're comfortable with this part. We're not comfortable, but we've been lulled to sleep. As you get older, it's natural that this, your heart rate speeds up. Your heart rate speeding up means that your blood is slowing down. Just understand that. The heart speeding up means the blood slowing down. Right? The heart speeding up means the blood slowing down. So your heart rate going up means that it's taking the blood longer than 60 seconds to do that 60K. Put the K there, right? So 70 seconds, 80 seconds, 90 seconds. So when you get a personal trainer, they always calculate your age into your heart max, right? They want to get you up to your max heart rate for a certain amount of time. Exercise. Let's get on the treadmill. Let's do circuit training. Let's do HIIT, high intensity. Let's do all these different things to get your heart rate up, right? And then depending on how old you are, you have a different heart rate max. It's how long it takes for the blood to get from the heart back to the heart. The optimum number when you're at your best is 60, right? 60 seconds. To do all 60,000 miles. As you get older and you age, this number goes up because the speed goes down. But the other side of the equation, the 60,000 miles, nobody even likes to talk about that one because that's the nasty one. That's the nasty one. Because see, guess what happens? When your blood can't travel the whole 60,000 miles, infection goes in, period. period. Infection that science don't even know how to stop. Yeah, period. Infection science don't even know how to stop. So when the blood can't even go the full 60,000 miles, whatever that other part is, they just know to cut that off. Whatever that other part is that the blood can't go through, they just cut that off. They say, listen, this part getting ready to infect the whole part, you getting ready to be dead in about 12 days. You probably going to be dead. You're going to be done in 12 days if we don't cut this foot off, if we don't cut these toes off, if we don't cut these fingers off, if we don't cut. Yeah, this is called gangrene. We got to cut. Gangrene just means the blood is not going in there. That's it. So this is the master equation. 60,000 miles, 60 seconds. The healthier you are, the closer you are to this number. The less healthy you are, the further you get away from this number. If this number should change, your quality of life is going to be impacted very quickly. So this is why we do 2 exercises back to back in our daily prayers, the heel raises and the toe raises. We want to activate all the muscles in the feet and get blood all over the place. We want to get blood as much as possible down into the feet. Yeah, if anything is even starting to close off, we want to open it back up. Yeah, we want to open it back up. And then we want to support with the squats, like pushing it down. We want to push it down. Yeah, we want to push the blood down there. We want to make sure that we're getting the immediately maximum blood flow into the feet. Because this is the place that's going to feel it the most, your feet. That's why most amputations is the feet. Period. Why is that associated with diabetes? Because, like I said, everything affects this QRST, QRST, everything. So glycation from diabetes, your A1C number. When all that sugar gets onto the blood, it gets harder for the blood to maintain its speed. So the heart has to work harder. And then also, it gets harder for the blood to make the entire trip. Because with those chains of sugar on it, is now taking more space. And so it might not even fit into the tiny little capillaries. And if it does fit into the capillaries, it'll slow traffic down so much that blood cell on top of blood cell on top of blood cell, you get a traffic jam. And now you got capillaries that's just closed off, road work, repair signs going up. Detour. Yeah, they just got the detour with the fireworks on the side of detour. You can't even come through here no more. These roads is blocked off. Go that way. Now what happens? If you're from a suburb or another country watching this video, you probably think that road work actually gets done. If you're from the neighborhood, road work never gets finished. They're still working on the same. When I was a little boy, 40 years ago, they had road work signs up in the Bronx. Them signs still up right now. Them streets still ain't 40 years later. So same thing happens in your body. Once the road work signs go up, oh, it's a wrap. No blood going through there. Them roads only get worse once the road work sign goes up. And pretty soon, gangrene, infection. Our modern science, they ain't got one solution. Cut that off. With all of our gadgets, cut that off. We got AI that's now making French fries at White Castles, firing folks. They put the machine there. The AI know how to make the fries perfectly. You get an infection, chop that thing off. They still ain't figured that out yet. All right, we get into a war. We could send a drone to blow up thousands of people. No soldiers need to get in the war. If the blood get backed up, zero solutions. Zero solutions, right? So, again, this is the conversation. This is the conversation for an athlete, for a sick person, for a healthy person. Doesn't matter. High cholesterol, same conversation. Slowing down blood flow, same thing. Obese person, high triglyceride, same thing, slowing down blood flow. This is why the symptoms for high cholesterol, obesity, and diabetes all look the same, because they affect this 60 and 60. They're doing the same thing to this 60 and 60. And usually when you get a combination of the three, they just all combine to slow down the blood and clog up the blood even faster. Slow down the blood, clog up the blood even faster. Right? So these are the numbers. This is the math. Right? So you're having a conversation with a person, right? You know the person, right? You know the person. You just have to find the entry to the conversation to bring them on, right? Now, if you like, say, Finn, you dealing with a holy roller Christian, you know, the Baptist. I go to such and such Baptist church. You can only be redeemed through the blood and through Christ. That should be an easy conversation for you, believe it or not, because we saying the same thing. Listen, we ain't saying nothing different. They just have a shorter conversation than you do. Like, you can take that conversation to the scientific journals, to the math, to the whiteboard. You can prove that conversation. They kind of don't, they can't really do anything with that conversation. They can only talk to other people that believe as they believe. But you can take that conversation and go, yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. The problem is, as you're saying that you can only be redeemed through Christ and through the blood of Christ, and woo-woo, you got that fried chicken right there. And so that's really not like, we gotta work on that. You know what I'm saying? We gotta work on that. You know, yeah, we gotta work on that. Yeah, you're bodybuilding, you look amazing. You know, the thing with bodybuilders is, bodybuilders are really in love with their body, how they look. Most of them started bodybuilding from the love of their body. It starts in love. They got to understand, though, it's a window. There's a window that the steroids, the TRT, it's a window. It's a window. You know, it's a window. There's a window that it expires, and there's also a window where you reach the threshold of no return. Right? Because while the body may be looking great, the heart, right? So it's a conversation. So it's just a conversation. And with a lot of bodybuilders, the thing is, it's 50-50. Some of them have really healthy, really amazing practices based on their bodybuilding that they don't even know are really amazing practices. So they have really, really healthy hearts, way healthier than yours and mine, right? And then the other half of the bodybuilders, they don't know that their practices, like, they're a lot closer to heart attack than me or you ever want to be. And because they don't understand any of this science, they don't know who's who. So the bodybuilding community, they just love each other because they know that any day they could get the phone call like, yo, such and such, heart attack. Man, yeah, he did his thing. I think he won. How many trophies he won? Oh, yeah, he won Mr. Arnold, Mr. Olympia, he won about 5-6 trophies, man. Yeah, man, he rest in greatness, man. He rest in peace, man. That's a good brother, man. He won a lot of trophies. Just saying. Them trophies be like $100. Trophies don't be that much on the wholesale side. Like, I get it, the recognition, but it's just a conversation. Right? Because a conversation could bring all of the bodybuilders into the good practices. It can make all the bodybuilders have good, healthy hearts. It can make all the NFL players have good, healthy hearts. That's the one thing that basketball players have over everybody else. Basketball players live really long. As opposed to like other sports, basketball players live really long. Football players don't live long. Bodybuilders don't live long. Boxers, they might live long, but their brains are destroyed. Like soccer players, they live long. They got good respiratory systems, but they get so many injuries. Their body is really beat up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so baseball players live long, but they pick up a lot of, I don't know what's up with baseball players. Baseball players be into a lot of cocaine and alcohol still. Like the basketball players, they kind of came out of it, like with the 90s. Like the 90s kind of ended the drugs, and the alcohol abuse still crazy, but the drugs ended like in the 90s with Magic Johnson's situation and Michael Jordan getting, like they had to circle the wagons around Michael Jordan to protect the league. You know what I'm saying? But Magic literally has AIDS based on the freak-offs. Like that's how Magic got AIDS. That's why none of the other players could really violate Magic, because they know they were at the freak-offs doing cocaine, going crazy at the orgies with Magic. He wasn't alone at the orgies, just like Puff Daddy. There's a lot of celebrities that was quiet. He wasn't having an orgy alone, right? And yeah. So, and Puff learned from the athletes. Don't think that that's a music thing. The athletes, yeah. Listen to some of them stories Shaq could tell you. It's a story online where Shaq could tell you about this white guy on his basketball team. He said he was such a nice guy, he had to protect him. And he's telling this story, and the story is about buying the white guy a house or a car or something. But either way, he accidentally tells you about the NBA though, because he's like, yo, it's so many things that we involved in that I just had to keep him away from, because he was such a nice, pure guy. I wanted to keep him away from all that, because the things that $1 million adults is into, And most people is like, nah, I don't know. Yes, you do. We just watched Puffy on trial. You just don't want to, you know them. Yeah. Puff ain't the only one with a large supply of baby oil at the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Anyway, what we talking about? Look how busy the devil is. It done turned our holy, spiritual, divine conversation into a Diddy conversation, right? So, when you're talking to people and you want to bring them into the truth, bring them into the light, you want to inspire them to inspiration, the conversation is the heart. Conversation is the heart, and what's at the center of the heart, right? And what's at the center of the heart is electricity and light. Electricity and light. Mostly studied as magnetism, but electricity and light nonetheless, right? And how that electricity and light and magnetism is maintained, how that current is maintained. That's the conversation, right? So whether we're talking to a barber, an athlete, that's the conversation. So we get into the concept of religion, right? The word religion, it means, and in its oldest sense, it means to tie back to the source, or to tie back to the creator, right? And so you got a lot of conspiracy theory folks try to do something else with it, but that's what it means. And now, right, that we understand quantum entanglement, the term religion has to have a brand new, like a rebirth. The term quantum entanglement baptized the word religion, because the word religion that's almost like calling your mother the B word or something. Like, that's like the highest level of disrespect. Like, the term religion and got a nasty, like quantum entanglement. You understand it? That term baptizes the term religion, gives it a total new rebirth. Because now you understand religion, the customs of a religion, the practices of a religion, the rituals of a religion is to strengthen that bond. But now the bond is no longer mystical because we already have quantum entanglement. So people can deny the truth, but that doesn't make it not the truth. Like, people don't have to accept what you're saying, but they will come back to you because you told them the truth, and there's only one source for it. And anywhere they look, they will only have verification. They will only have verification. Period. And we look into the stars and the relationship between the earth and the sun, and we have the same exact math that's in our blood. And then we have the same exact math again in our mitochondria. That's a signature. And a signature is a sign of nature. Signature. Sign plus nature gives you signature. Right? Literally, biosemiotics. Again, like, it's. So now we understand, to tie back to, it's the strength of the bond is unbroken. We could deny the bond with our creator, but that's not how the universe works. The universe is orderly. All subatomic particles are quantumly entangled because, well, the ones that have the same origin. And for us here, all electrons and photons here have the same origin. So we can get speculative and talk about aliens and Sirius B and all that, but here, like this right here, Nature. Yeah, this right here. Yeah, this all same origin. Same origin. So when you talk about getting healthier, when you talk about VO2 max, for instance, the ability to utilize oxygen better, to be more efficient in breathing, well, that means that other things are happening. Athletes and trainers will only focus on one aspect. But what VO2 max means, like we can, the same way we extrapolate, we can go in reverse, right? The same way we talk about glycation, sugar in the blood, clogging up the blood, right? We looked at the 60 and 60. The same way we could look at, cholesterol, and specifically the fat that surrounds cholesterol and that carries cholesterol, attracting specific types of white blood cells, that clog up, or triglycerides, all of those things having a similar impact, right? When they slow down the blood, right? Or rather, when they slow down the blood or cut the blood off, right? That's slowing down and cutting off the ability of oxygen to reach the tissues, right? So that's one level where those things impacts the VO2 max, right? They slow down the speed at which oxygen can get to the tissues, right? So when you do that, you have two problems pop up. Hypoxia, which is tissues starving for oxygen, and then hypercapnia, tissues producing carbon faster than the oxygen can clear it away. Both of those things begin to happen. But then also, you have the problem that when the blood does come through the heart and does go through the lungs, it can't quite hold on to the oxygen. The higher the cholesterol levels, the higher the A1C level, right? The higher the triglyceride levels, the less efficient your blood becomes at holding on to oxygen. So now your blood can carry less oxygen as it's moving slower. Two ways that your VO2 max is impacted now. You see what I'm saying? And the deeper we go into the conversation, right? Because then we can go to the handoff that takes place between the hemoglobin and the myoglobin, right? Because it's a handoff that takes place from the hemoglobin to the myoglobin. The myoglobin is the pigment that's inside your muscles. So now, because the hemoglobin and myoglobin handoff is not as efficient, guess what? You don't feel like working out. You don't feel like working out because you can't really do much. You get embarrassed and there's so much energy to just do nothing. You don't even want to do nothing. I can't do 60 push-ups in 60 seconds. Ink. I can't even do 4 push-ups. I'm doing 7 push-ups. I'm doing 3 push-ups. That's discouraging. But this is what's happening on the inside. This is the reason why you can only do 3 push-ups or 7 push-ups. Because that 3 push-ups releases so much carbon, right? Because your body's breaking down so much glucose. Between the carbon and the lactic acid, your body can't get oxygen in there fast enough. So when you go from being able to only do 3 push-ups to doing 7 push-ups, you basically like doubling your oxygen efficiency. When you go from doing 7 push-ups to being able to do 15 push-ups, you're doing it again. If you can only do 15 push-ups and you keep working till you can get to 30 push-ups, you're doubling it again. Because it's oxygen that's determining how long you can work. Not necessarily how strong you can work. That's got something more to do with the muscles. But how long you can work. That's primarily oxygen and water, right? But you got to remember, water is also what? Oxygen, right? H2O, right? So there's even oxygen in the water, right? Yeah, think about that, right? So you breathe in oxygen, but you also consume oxygen with the water, right? Different form, but oxygen nonetheless, right? And water and the breath are the 2 things that's going to determine your endurance, right? It's going to determine how fast you can recycle lactic acid, how fast you can get the carbon dioxide out of the body, right? How much salt impacts your blood, how much sugar impacts your blood, all of those things, right? So all of those, so VO2 max encompasses all of those things. As you're improving your efficiency, you're taking care of all those things. So losing weight, right? Lowering cholesterol, this one, that one, right? Now here's the thing. Look, here's another way to look at it. Say you're struggling with cholesterol, right? Cholesterol is going to impact these numbers, right? But also in other spaces, right? Because cholesterol is what becomes vitamin D. Cholesterol is also what becomes testosterone. So if your cholesterol is not flowing properly, meaning you don't have the right turnover time for your cholesterol, you're not going to be able to naturally produce vitamin D or naturally produce testosterone. If you can't naturally produce testosterone, you cannot sustain muscle tissue. What does that mean? If you can't sustain muscle tissue because you can't sustain the right amount of testosterone, that means you cannot sustain a healthy amount of mitochondria inside the muscles. If you can't sustain a healthy amount of mitochondria in the muscles, guess what? Your blood sugar going to go up because it's the mitochondria in the muscles that's using up the blood sugar. And that's how we get to that 12, 5, that 5, 4, 3, 2, that 5, 4, 3, and 12 in the mitochondria, right? Because that's from primarily glucose metabolism. But it's testosterone that's maintaining the size of the muscle and the mitochondria density. That's going to do all that subatomic magic, right? But if the cholesterol can be converted because it's clogging up the blood, it's going to slow you down on the front end and on the back end, right? Because the cholesterol is not being converted to testosterone. Now the muscle size is constantly shrinking. Mitochondria count is constantly shrinking. Glucose is constantly backing up in the blood. So the sugar on the blood constantly increasing, A1C level constantly increasing, right? Or at least never decreasing, so you can't get more efficient, right? So I know it might seem like a whole lot, in one setting, but because I haven't been going live, I gotta give you, right? But this is the conversation. Now, when you get the new books that's out, the new books is going to show you, you got study guides to go through the material, right? Study guides for the Codex, study guides for Rich Abs, study guide. But then you also have conversations to show you how to break down, and just have casual conversation, well, not so casual conversation, because you got a motive. You got an ulterior motive. You want to make the person you're talking to healthier. You want to reconnect them with their source, right? You want to give them another decade or two of being able to live with their loved ones and play with their kids and grandkids and whatever the case may be, right? Yeah. So you got an ulterior motive, right? And we're not trying to bring people to inspiration and go, oh yeah, go get a Codex. No. You don't hit people with the Codex. The Codex is for you. You don't hit people with the Codex. You don't push the Codex. That's not what you do, because the Codex is too much. If they don't know none of this information, the Codex is too much. They're going to look at that and be like, so I got to learn this? Nah, I'm good. I can't. No. So that's not, they got to learn the basics. They got to learn how the stars and everything, the earth and the sun, how that's connected to them, how they're connected, and how life is connected. The source, God never left them. The Netra didn't go nowhere. The Elohim's still in the building. Like you ignoring the connection, but that don't mean you're not connected. Just because you done messed up your dopamine, and so now you have the illusion that you're alone, so you feeling lonely, leading to anxiety and depression. Those are illusions. If you understand the science, there's no such thing as alone. There's no such thing as alone in this universe, right? You could be going through withdrawal symptoms. You could be going through withdrawal symptoms from food. You could be going through withdrawal symptoms from drugs. But food and drugs don't compare to other humans. The withdrawal symptoms that you go through from missing other people is way worse than drugs or food. And so we don't really understand that because we don't delve into it at that level. This is why we have a memory bank book. This is why we have a dope game, the dementia book. This is why we have books on these things, because there's a level of study that we need to take. We got to go into, right? Because that's mental health, but we don't understand mental health is neurochemistry. So we don't get the two. We don't put the two together. I put out a book on dopamine, And folks like, yo, hey, when you gonna drop something on mental health? I'm like, when you gonna start reading the books? Because clearly you ain't reading these books, so you would understand what's on the inside of them, right? But the reason why people don't have a good control over their mental health is because they don't know what that is. The reason why heart disease is the #1 killer is because we don't know what heart health is. We don't understand that Christ complex, that QRST complex, that QRST, right? We don't understand the IB, right? We don't understand the IB. We don't get it. We don't understand that huge magnetic field coming from our heart because science hasn't given us any facts yet, right? But the facts are everywhere. Science has already given us more than enough facts. We just don't know how to apply them. We don't get, but that's where we come in and try to fill in some blanks. Okay, we done went crazy. We done went crazy. We done missed prayer. We done missed love. Look at this. Look at this. We done missed love. Oh my goodness. Look at what is come on now. We done missed love. PM. I greatly appreciate that. And then look. Oh my goodness. I'm convinced Imhotep is like your great grandfather or something. Yeah. Me and Imhotep is quantumly entangled. Yeah. Me and Imhotep is quantumly entangled. That's what it is. We quantumly entangled. That's what's going on. Yeah. Imhotep was from the neighborhood, and Imhotep used the science of masonry, and the science of the body, and worked himself out of the neighborhood, and eventually became a legend. Yeah. So me and Imhotep definitely quantumly entangled. Yeah. Bayat started us off. We have the illustrious, the magnificent, the illustrious, the magnificent, the beneficent, the incredible, the unstoppable. Hotep Jesus in the building. Yeah. I gotta try to get him back. I tried that. That wasn't that good though. That was all right. I gotta do better. Introducing Hotep Jesus. Hotep gives me the super crazy introduction. I gotta work on my, illustrious, magnificent, incredible, untouchable, one of one. The universe's greatest ever, all time. Hotep Jesus. Everybody that's why I gotta put more energy into it. Yeah, see, now you know. The unparalleled. Come on, there we go. The unparalleled. Yeah. I got to get assistance. Oh, man. Let me tell you something. Love feels good to receive, but trust me, it feels good to give. Edification is a beautiful thing. And I'm not just saying it because he edifies me, but he deserves it. His name is. And listen, y'all know that y'all are popping up. Anybody in my chat, y'all might get like boondocks into a rich ab story. So just saying. I got about 10 people that's in the chat right now. Yes. Let me get to prayer. Let's get to the prayer. Hold on. Let's get to the prayer, and then let's get to what is happening right now. I said, what the feed? I'm trying to search up something, and then it went crazy. Okay, let's go. Because I skipped 3 o'clock, so I done violated already. Yeah, let's just warm it up. Just warm it up with this. Just warm it up.
EnQi prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our cells into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.